this is the second video, and the previous video we were making a video about Kangpokpi, and I did travel to some spaces, but this time in the sequel I want to take you out on a path that I usually go every evening for walks. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a trail or wooden trail or anything, but this is really comfortable. This has become a daily part of my routine, and there are many green places, there are streams, pretty cool stuff. And as always with this series, I really don't know what the video is going to be about. We're going to keep walking, and sometimes what happens is when you're walking through these places, inspiration strikes you. So based on that, I'll share whatever that comes across my mind, and this will be more like you and I going for evening walk together. So this right here is the part we took in the last video, but this time we will be going straight. And one of the core reasons why I decided to record this video today was because I've been getting a ton of questions from people regarding, like, where do you go for walking? Which destination is it exactly? And I really can't say that because there's no specific landmark. And I think this video will be the closest that I can come to showing the people few of the sites that I used to go for walking in the evening. And I'm telling you, this is like my favorite part of the day. It just suits my soul, it just relaxes my mind. Then I go back home, I have a shower, and I just get on with my work. It's one of the greatest perks of being here in Kangpokpi. There's so many places, so many cool places. So now we are at the crossroad. So if you go in the right, you'll go up. So we'll be taking the road on the right. So this is my route. So that was Umang Boy. He was a neighbor back in Imphal. Right now we are both in Kangpokpi, but we are no longer neighbors. So now and then, when I go for this evening walks, we used to cross paths. So I've been thinking, and I think there's a lot of things that is going on in my mind lately, and it got me thinking about the relations of Kangpokpi and the communities that are living here in Kangpokpi and in general in Manipur itself and in India overall, and let's say globally, and our relationship with the universe and physics, of course. So have you ever asked yourself, have you ever pondered on the question of how big the universe really is? I mean, we are people, like around 7 billion people living in an average sized planet, rock planet, revolving around an average sun. So the nearest star to us, the Proxima Centauri system, is approximately 4.2 light years away from us. And we are currently residing in the Milky Way galaxy, which approximately contains like 200 billion such stars. And then we are living in a universe which contains approximately like 2 trillions of galaxies. I don't know why that matters, but I think those kind of things really puts things into perspective. And then as you go down the scale, you have all these millimeter, micrometer, nanometer, picometer, femtometer, till the Planck length, which is 10 to the power minus 35. I mean, it's really fascinating how big and small the universe is at the same time. I mean, as we are working in this part, we haven't reached the place that I told you about, but it got me thinking about life in general. So we have one collective hope, the Earth, and all these natural disasters. Not only that, man-made disaster calamities, and people get killed, and people killing in the name of religion or someone else's concept of God. And do we ever ask ourselves how irrelevant all of this is? All the big major chaos in the world, all this ethnic cleansing, all this communal divide, it all stems from conflict of interests. And is it really worth it? It doesn't matter how big we think our idea is, our community is. The universe is even bigger than God. Majority of everything that happens in life, whether that be war, anything, all this problem, the root cause has always been conflict of interest. And what is my solution to mitigate it? Because I don't think it is possible to actually to eradicate conflict of interest altogether. In fact, that is what makes us human to a certain degree. But what I mean to say is, there should be a way to mitigate it. Like, what is the point of us fighting about all of this stuff, killing each other? Whether that be for ideology, whether that be for politics, and whether that be for religion. At the end of the day, we hardly have few decades with us. We hardly have few years ahead. None of us is going to be here for hundreds of years. And that's why I love physics. I think physics is a subject that just breaks everything to its basic principle. With physics, there is no black or white. With physics, you're either black or you're either white. And one of my favorite example that I always use when I tell people about physics is, if you jump down from a 20-story building, it doesn't matter whether you are a good person or a bad person, you will die. And that's the beauty of physics. And all the theories that you know, whether that be Newton's law of motion or Archimedes' principle, all those ancient philosophers who sort of inspired and gave birth to modern physics. So I think modern physics, we can say, it mostly came from Sir Isaac Newton. And then if you come to the theoretical, that is more quantum mechanics and all this stuff. Like you have Max Planck, Albert Einstein, Heisenberg, Niels Bohr. All of these are great scientists. And the stuff that we have accomplished just studying physics, it has skyrocketed human civilization in the past 100 years than what we have achieved in the past 2,000 or 10,000 years. From the electricity with Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, from the cars, and now to supercomputers. But if I were to say what is the most important subject in human history, I'll have to go with mathematics. As important as physics is, being an engineer, without physics we are completely powerless, and physics is nothing without mathematics. So the most important subject in the world, as per my experience, from my point of view, would be mathematics, physics, and then chemistry and bio. The rest are just whatever, you can use them in whatever way you want. But those four subjects, starting off with mathematics, those are the most important things. Okay, we are pretty much in the rainforest of Kangpo-Pi. This part of Kangpo-Pi, I don't think even sunlight penetrates this portion, this small portion of it. So the sound that you hear, those are streams. And whether it be dry season, wet season, that sound is something that is always consistent. And I'm going to show you a few other things. As you can see, you won't find any sort of vehicle in this particular spot, because the trail itself is only meant for walking. That is really convenient, because nowadays if you go for a walk, oftentimes you are forced to make way for the four-wheelers that's coming by. This place, well, I don't know how else to put it, how else to phrase it. It's divine, sublime. I mean, this is what it is, right? This is the whole point of going out with the nature. And when you think about it, back in the days, see, I wouldn't go back in the past for whatever reason it is. I think this is the best time to be alive. I don't care how romantic it seems, but I would never go to maybe 100 years back Angkor P or 200 years Angkor P, or for that matters the earth before the internet. I never want to go back to that place. But now and then it's nice to come for a vacation in this part of the world. You sort of get a taste of what your ancestors, how your ancestors lived their life in all this green forest, no Wi-Fi, no trees, sorry, no Wi-Fi, no smartphone, no iPhone, whatever, right? And it also makes you really appreciate the blessings that we have. Just imagine being born in the 1850s and getting a tuberculosis. Things like just fever, dying of simple fever because there wasn't an antibiotic. All we had was some voodoo spells, and now we have all these amazing vaccines, amazing doctors. So those kind of things, it really makes you appreciate the wonder of science, especially biology and chemistry, how humanity have come so far in curing all these diseases that were really fatal back in the day, has now become like something so simple. Like when you think about, so people did die of this disease, you know, and that is something that feels so foreign to us, because we can never imagine people dying of common cold, but that was something very common in the past. So now this is like one of those places where you finally come to the light, and like if you were to follow that trail down the road, there's a thick, like a small patch of jungle, and if you were to cross that, what you do get is a highly mesmerizing field, green fields, just like that Pink Floyd song. So this is the reward that you get. And the first time I came here, I was speechless, because like it felt like I was in one of those places in Ghost of Tsushima. So Ghost of Tsushima, for those people who are not aware, it is a video game, one of my favorite video games. It is set in Japanese samurai period, like when the Mongols tried to conquer Japan. A great game, phenomenal game, highly immersive game. So that is pretty much what I felt. I felt like Jin Sakai. Arigato. I feel like Jin Sakai. Looking at this feels, it almost feel like I could just stretch out my hand, just whistle, and Sora would come by. Again, please don't misunderstand what I'm speaking when I'm talking about science. Okay, I'm definitely pro science and math. So does that mean I hate literature? Does that mean I disdain social science? No, I think those are also important, not equally important, mind you, but definitely an important subject. But I don't think social science or literature will ever be as important as mathematics or physics, chemistry, biology, for that matter. But that does not mean those aren't important. Those are definitely important. But I think the future, I'd like to live in a future where everyone is educated in science. Even the politicians, even the waiter, at least they should know the basic of physics, because that is the key to unlocking the universe. Sounds like a mystic. No, I mean seriously, like that is the, like when you look at all this Kepler's planetary law of motion, how Kepler is able to come up with that formula, calculating the orbit of the planets around the sun. It was just that all these things that we see in the universe, they all follow a specific pattern. Even humans, what one human will do is hard to predict, but what 10,000 humans will do, that is very easy to predict. So in one way, it is very difficult to brainwash one human being. But to brainwash 1,000 human beings, to convince 10,000 human beings, that is quite easy. That is how we are able to have all this religion, politics, human rights. Is that a bad thing? No. But it is what it is. Religion is nothing but the people getting brainwashed into believing something they don't necessarily understand, they don't necessarily see, and they don't necessarily question. Do I have a problem with that? No. Because I myself am not an atheist. But again, I understand that I think my relationship with religion is pretty complex. I don't think I'm an atheist, but I do respect every religion, regardless. And that is only possible if you are secular. So in one word, I would say I'm highly secular, but not necessarily an atheist, because I owe a lot of the things that I am, who I am, to the religion that I grew up in. So for that, I'm always grateful. And it gave me a lot of opportunity, a lot of exposure, a lot of morals that I still hold dear to this day. And it's more like a cultural thing. It's not necessarily about whether this is universally the truth. It's more like this is the thing that I grew up with, and I do appreciate it, and I do go back to it. I still look up to it when I'm in times of trouble. One of the reasons why I wanted to create this video in particular was to pay homage. I think my mom is awesome. My mom is not a physicist or a scientist, but she's always encouraged us to pursue it. And one of my fondest memory with her has to be back in 2006. I was an 8-year-old, and that was a time when I started really, when my interest in stars and astronomy started really peaking, and my mom took note of it, and I was 8 years old. I think it must have been October, September, not really winter, but it was. I still remember my mom waking me up at around 3:30 a.m. and I was reluctant to wake up, and then she told me the morning star is up, let's go and look at Venus. I still remember that day. Jumped down from the bed, ran the stairs, and we stared at the morning star. I don't know. It's a memory that I thought I would have forgotten that memory. It seems so, to a certain extent, unremarkable. It is something that is always there. Even now, the morning star is always there. You just have to wake up early. But that memory sticks with me. That is the beauty. So lately, I've been taking up a challenge, and that is I started really diving into 11 and 12 NCERT physics and mathematics. And the wonder of it all is, when you have finished all your engineering degree, you sort of feel like you have understood everything. But then, revisiting 11 and 12 physics, I think it has been phenomenal. What it does is it showed me a lot of things. It made me remember a lot of things that I've forgotten, and it made me really appreciate physics and mathematics all over again. And what I do tell people is, whatever you do, just try to have a good grasp of 11 and 12 NCERTs, especially mathematics, physics, bio, and chemistry. Any student who understands those 4 subjects will have no trouble. Like, suppose one day you want to really dive into what made Einstein's theory of relativity, which includes general relativity and special relativity. What made him so special? You can pretty much study the literature yourself. But the thing is, you need to have the basic in order to truly comprehend those. And by basic, what I mean is not the 9 and 10 physics, but up to 11 and 12, because those are so aptly compiled. Like, you have a little bit of quantum mechanics, then you have classical mechanics, so, and all the important basics that you need to know to understand quantum mechanics when you study by yourself is there in physics and chemistry of class 11 and 12. That's why, and even maths, if you really grasp, because there's already calculus, derivatives, integration, differentiation, metrics. If you really understand those, and as a hobby, as a polymath, if you want to explore Laplace series, divergent convergent, Fourier transformation, Laplace transformation, those kind of stuff that are a bit advanced, you will easily comprehend it, because you've already gotten the basics down from the 11 and 12 physics and maths. So yes, NCERT, great job. So if you zoom in, that right there, those small buildings, that is the heart of Kampotpi. That is Kampotpi Bazaar. So you can imagine how far I've come. Okay, why do I choose walking? I think gym, I'm a man who prefers consistency over intensity. I'm not a huge fan of bodybuilding, steroids, supplements, those kind of stuff. So what's important for me is to be able to go out, to walk around 10 kilometers daily, and nothing too intense, but the thing is I have to be consistent with my approach. Just like the river that eventually breaks down the rock. I think that is my philosophy to life. If you rush too much, you won't enjoy the process. It's one thing to reach the destination, it's one thing to reach your goal, that is cool, but you gotta enjoy the process. So if it takes 10 years, if it takes 20 years, you gotta have patience, and I'm all about patience. So one of the things that really showed me the value of patience was, I think, with the guitar, right? When I was young, I thought guitar was impossible. I look at people performing on stage, and the thing that I tell myself was, maybe singers like Bryan Adams, they have to be born with certain quality, because I tried playing and it was impossible as a 6-year-old. My fingers couldn't touch anything, and let alone like I couldn't even strum the guitar. And then I don't know, it was just now and then I'd play, nothing too heavy, nothing too intense. And eventually one day I started singing songs, I started performing on stage. I don't know how, I don't know when, and that is how it is. So consistency beats intensity. I think that is one of the main takeaway from these walks. I like to go for walks, and Kangpopi has become my favorite place. It's just amazing. The weather is cool, and just the places, nothing comes close to it. You have the town, and you don't have to go very far. It's just an outskirt of the town itself, the bazaar itself. Like you have all this population that is confined with high density, and then suddenly you walk a few kilometers away from the noise, and you are pretty much in Switzerland or 18th century Victorian England. Just, yeah, no complaint, I can't complain yet. And walking, it gives me a lot of time to really spend alone with myself, to have conversation with myself, to muse on the questions, whether that be physics, engineering, or mathematics. It gives me a lot of time. And I'm someone who enjoys spending a lot of quiet time alone, having conversations with myself, exploring my own ideas. I like to think of myself as a self-policing globe. I pitch my idea, I debate my idea, everything inside this head. And it's nice to also meet people who think like that. Okay, yes. Now is the time we head back home. And to tell you the truth, we went much further than I anticipated today. So I just checked my Google Fit, and we have walked 6 kilometers in total. So now if I'm to head back home, that's 6 plus 6 kilometers approximately. So 12 kilometers, so 2 kilometers more than my usual my usual track, right? So wonderful. And I hope you enjoy the walk as much as I did. And this is just, like I said, think of it like you and I working together on this road. And that is the whole idea. And so I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I enjoyed recording it. That's what I wanted to say. So thank you, see you soon. Okay, people do ask me like, aren't I afraid going all this walk in all this secluded place in the dark? What is there to be afraid of? And they'll say, what about ghosts? All this Tom News, or all these people. I don't know whether they are people or whatever nonsensical stuff they may be. No, I'm not afraid of them, because the second law of thermodynamics and the third law of the first and the second law of thermodynamics, we have 4 laws of thermodynamics, right? Zeroth law, first law, second law, and third. So the first law states energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Okay. Number 2, the entropy increases over time. So those 2 principles alone debunks the whole concept surrounding spiritual ghosts and whatever nonsensical stuff all the psychics and fiction writers might dream of. It makes a great story, but is that something worth losing sleep over? Definitely not. Definitely not. And most of the ghost sighting are lies and hoax. And the few of the sighting which are actually legit mostly goes back to schizophrenia and hallucination. That's how I interpret those. Thank you very much. No, I'm not afraid of ghosts, and I don't think ghosts exist, and I know ghosts doesn't exist.